Hi everyone, and welcome to Tuesday's Tips with Laurie. It's good to be back and sling free. Today I wanted to show you something fun. It's new, it's great, you're gonna love it. It's called our alphabet banner, and it's called That's So Chenille because you can do a chenille version as well as the applique version. And the fun thing is we have both a sewing version and an embroidery version, so you can go either way you want to go. So I'm going to show you the sizes first that it comes in. There are 5 sizes. This is made in the 4x4 hoop. This is made in the 5x7 hoop, or equivalent to. This is made in a 6x10 or equivalent to that. This is made in an 8x12. You could also do it in your larger jumbo sizes for the other machines that go by millimeters. And this hoop is about 9 inches by 14 inches for that hoop size right there. That's so much fun. Look how big those are. And they're fun in every way. Probably the most popular sizes would probably be these 2 middle sizes, because you start spelling out a long word, it's going to be a really big banner if it's a large size. And I wanted to show you too, these are applique right over here. I don't know if you can see the difference between the applique and the chenille. So the applique has a decorative stitch around the fabric, and the chenille has that 3-layer that you can puff up and make it more 3D if you'd like. So that is just fun. And I want to show you, this was actually made on burlap. And so we do have in our instruction booklet the directions for how to sew it on burlap, because it is slightly different. But it's so fun. You can add all these cute little things. There's pom-pom trim, you can do lace trim, so much fun. Or you can even just sew them all together. Wow, it's getting away from me. You can sew it all on a ribbon if you'd like, but there is a casing. You can see how the ribbon is sewn on the top of that. But if you look up here on the wall, there's casing, and you actually slide the ribbon through the casing. And that's the fun part of the way that these banners are made in the hoop, is you can actually slide your ribbon through. And come on up here and I'll show you. So this is our sewing version. As you can see, this is an applique, and there's a casing. So the ribbon is slid through the casing right there. And the best way to do that, you wrap this end around a chopstick, tape it in, and you just slide it right through. It's super fast. And then on this one, this is our burlap again, and this is the larger size. It was top stitched with a beautiful decorative ribbon. And there again on the top one we used flannel, so you can see they work great with flannels as well. And it's also strung inside the casing. So it's a lot of versatility and a lot of fun. And if you notice, we've got hashtag and signs, there's an exclamation point. So there's more than just the alphabet. You get a few extras that you would like to use as well. So today I want to show you how to actually stitch one out. So if you come on over here, I'm going to be on my FOF machine today, and I've got it hooped. I'm going to be making the smallest size. So you hoop it with just a cutaway stabilizer, and I'll just put it in right there. So I've got it hooped with a cutaway. The very first stitch is going to be a placement stitch, and it's going to show us where we're going to put our outside piecing of our pennant. Isn't that fun to watch? It's so fun. I love watching it. And so you'll see here I have the piece already cut out. For the smallest, it's a 4 inch by 10 inches, and I iron it in half, right sides together. And you'll see later why I do that. It's just makes it a little bit easier when you're making it. First thing is, you've got this fold to go off of, and you line the fold up at the top of that stitch line. And then, you know, and you've covered the whole rest of the stitch out. So then you know that you're set. So this next stitch is it's gonna baste across the top, and then it's gonna tack it down around the rest. Now this basting stitch will be removed later. And you can see it's the shape of the pennant. There we go. And the first stitch then, or the second stitch I guess it would be, on the fabric would be your placement line. We're gonna do the letter C. I don't know, why not, right? I just picked a C. That's right, C's for cute. And it'll do the placement line. Now if you're doing just the applique, then you'll only use one piece. If you're gonna be using chenille, you're gonna have 1, 2, 3 of the same extra plus your fourth one. So you're gonna have 4 pieces cut the same for chenille. So if it's applique, you simply lay it down and you're going to just do your super. And then, and I love this here, I'm gonna cheat a little bit and let me do my cutting position here. So you just trim then around the outside of that letter, and once you've trimmed all the way around the outside of the letter, you're going to put it back in and you're going to do what's called a decorative stitch, and I'll show you what that looks like. To save on time, I'm not going to do the decorative stitch at this very moment because it is a little bit lengthier. But this is what your decorative stitch would look like. So you can see here it's done this decorative stitch around the outside of the C. Now if you wanted to just leave it with the applique and not move on to chenille, at this point you would pull this down and you would skip to the last step. But I wanted to show you how to do the chenille, so I'm going to continue on with the chenille part. So I'm going to put this in, and I'm going to layer. So there's 1, 2, 3 layers. They're all right side facing up. They all cover over the C, and then you would actually do that chenille stitching. And what it's going to do, it's going to do lines that go across the top, and I lost my thread. And this stitch is not really long either, but I'm going to stop it right here because I want to show you what it would look like. When it's chenille, you're going to see these lines right here. And then you're going to use that basting line as your cutting line. And you can see right here there's still some basting stitches left because I wanted to show you what it would look like and what you're going to be cutting against. So you're going to cut right here along those basting stitches. My arm's in the way, I'm left-handed. Actually, I'm right-handed with my scissors. Okay, so you can see there's still these basting stitches left here, which is where I just used as my trimming line. Then we're going to go in and we're going to remove all of those basting stitches. And here we go. And we remove those basting stitches. So now, and I earlier did cut out the rest of those basting stitches, so we have that. And now I'm going to chenille that. And so you can either use the chenilling tool. You see how quickly that goes through those. If you don't have a chenilling tool, that's just fine. This is a slasher from Clover. Or you can simply take your pair of scissors and you can cut through all 3 layers, and that works just as good as well. Just be sure, don't cut your original piece. Can you see that original piece is still there, and I've cut these 3 layers. That's all you want to do when you're chenilling. So we're going to put this back in and finish. Let me swap this out. And I'm going to show you how to finish this up. It's really fun. It's really slick how it's done. And I'm going to find my thread here. And one important thing to note, whenever you're threading, if you're having issues with your thread, it's pulling up, it's breaking, I always highly recommend rethread the top, check your bobbin on the bottom. If that's all still working and you're still having problems, check your needle, because if your needle goes dull, sometimes it may slightly bend as well, and it can shear your thread as it's going and rubbing up and down against the bobbin. And so this is the very next thing we're going to do, is take the back piece, we're going to pull it. And if you remember that line that we ironed across the top, that line now, it helps you just to lay that nice and flat. Now if you'd like, on the bigger ones, I highly recommend that you use Kimberbell tape and tape it down so that it doesn't shift on you. The smaller ones, you probably could get away without taping. But I recommend just giving a little piece of tape to both sides so that it holds it down. All right, and we are gonna skip to this last step here. And what it's gonna do, it's gonna stitch a little ways, leave an opening, and that's where we're gonna flip it through. Then it's gonna come back up and it's gonna leave that casing opening at the top as well. So that's the first part, and it left the little opening. It's doing a triple stitch to tack it down really good. We don't want it to come undone. And voila, we're done with the stitching. Isn't that easy? It's really a fun project. It's a really quick project as well. So what I like to do now is I'm going to pop it out of the hoop. And those are easy. I like the little maneuvers on those, are great. Okay, so then you can take the tape off, and then when you cut, you do not want to cut the fabric along the top, only the stabilizer. So I'll show you, you can cut a little ways away, you don't have to cut right on it, but don't cut the fabric, just the stabilizer. And then I like to give it a good 1/4 inch all the way around, and then I'll trim the corners in a minute. The reason you like to leave at least a 1/4 inch at the top, up here and up here, is when it's flipped and you're sticking something through that casing, you don't want that to come, the raw edges to flip out on you. So that's why I like to leave it a full 1/4 inch there and there. Definitely I cut off my corners. And same here. Trim that down. This one I'm a little more careful with because it's right there. And you just flip it. I forgot to bring my turning tool in. How many of you guys use a turning tool or a purple thing? Those are great tools. I always recommend using tools if you can.
We have a question about what machine you're using.
It's a FOF, it's a Creative Icon. It's a great machine. We like to test on all machines, so we actually do run all of the machines here. So if you have questions on machines, I'm happy to answer those. I'll just use my scissors for now. And then you actually just tuck this in. You don't have to close it off right this second, but you're gonna take this to the ironing board and you're gonna iron. You can see what I meant about if you give that a 1/4 inch, it makes it look nice. Then you're gonna iron this nice and flat, and you're gonna unpick the top basting stitch right here, which doesn't take too awful long. The reason we had that down was to hold it down while we did the chenilling, because if you don't have it down when you're doing the chenilling, you want your lines to match up. You don't like them shifting. When they shift, that's no fun. So you would unpick that, iron this nice and flat, and then you give it a quick top stitch. Now your top stitch along the top here, it's going to be 5/8 down on the little one, I believe, 3/4 inch on the larger ones. It'll say in the manual, in your instructions, how far down, but you'll measure a line, you'll sew across, and then you'll just do 1/8 of an inch all the way around the outside edge. Let me show you some that are stitched. If you can see, we stitched this down right here, and then really close to the edges. And when you stitch that edge, it automatically closes that for you, so you don't have to worry about hand stitching that shut. And we just throw it on the sewing machine to do that. So that shows you both, and you can see that's a lot more narrow. That's a little bit smaller casing. And then the other casings are just a hair bigger. So you can see this one's a little bit bigger, and this casing is even a little bit bigger there. So I think this is your 3/4, this might be your 5/8, and that would be your 1/4 inch from the top. And it's that easy. So simple, isn't that fun? So you can just have fun making as many banners, your kids' rooms, they would love that, for weddings, for baby showers, for birthday parties, the list goes on and on. You can use these for. So I appreciate you tuning in today. Good luck with your banners and have fun making them. Thanks so much. We'll see you next week on Tuesday's Tips.